Good evening and welcome to Poland Daily. I'm Nicholas Richardson and this is the news. The conference in Warsaw on peace and security in the Middle East, which was jointly organised by Poland and the United States, has ended. The summit's main conclusion was that more pressure needs to be applied to the Iranian regime to bring an end to Tehran's aggressive policy in the Middle East. This does not mean, however, that Iran will be excluded from the international community.
The second day of the Warsaw Summit concerned peace and safety in the Middle East, the role of Iran, and the situation in Syria and Yemen. The afternoon conference was the key point of the summit.
The European Union and the United States have the same opinion about the situation. Both see problems in the Middle East and, we can say it out loud, the negative role of Iran.
We make no bones about it. We think that we need more sanctions, more pressure on Iran. We think that gives the Iranian people the opportunity to get what it is they so richly deserve. We think that denies the Iranian kleptocracy, the clerical leaders there, the wealth and resources they need to create so much destruction that we heard about from countries all across the world.
The problems concerning the spreading use of weapons of mass destruction, terrorism, hybrid dangers, and new challenges of energy security were discussed during the Warsaw Summit. The talks concerned the humanitarian challenges and how to improve the situation in the Middle East.
But most of all, peace challenges in the Middle East. To avoid conflicts that result in refugee and humanitarian crisis, we must ensure stability and sustainability in the region. And we must employ politics when we talk about this, because peace is, in the end, a political goal.
Just last week, Pope Francis visited the United Arab Emirates. Long-standing enemies are becoming partners. Old foes are finding new ground for cooperation. And the descendants of Isaac and Ishmael are coming together in common cause as never before. This historic conference is a testament to the truth that a new era has begun.
Although the matter of Iran and Israel was the main subject of the summit.
There is no danger of war. No side is interested in it.
According to commentators, the summit in Warsaw is an important element in the cooperation between Poland and the United States.
We can expect a turning point. We have a few matters with the Americans, permanent American military bases in Poland, Nord Stream 2, cybersecurity.
60 countries took part in the summit, although major European countries like Germany or France declined to send their most senior diplomats. They explained that they fear that the summit in Warsaw may highlight the tensions caused by Washington's actions against Iran, withdrawing from the nuclear agreement with Iran in 2015 and reimposing sanctions on Tehran.
During the Warsaw Summit, United States Vice President Mike Pence criticised the United Kingdom, Germany and France for undermining the United States sanctions imposed on Iran. He argued that such actions will allow Iran to continue to spread state-sponsored terrorism on a global scale.
We are here at the Warsaw Conference for Security and Peace in the Middle East, where we have just listened to a speech given by US Vice President Mike Pence. In his speech, he strongly criticized the European nations that have created a special purpose vehicle that will allow them to continue trade and bypassing sanctions in their dealings with Iran. By doing so, the US Vice President argues that they are creating a danger to Europe and the rest of the world by allowing Iran to continue spreading state-sponsored terrorism.
The United States reimposed sanctions that should never have been lifted in the first place. And we've launched a new campaign to prevent the regime from financing its trademark terror and destruction around the world. But sadly, some of our leading European partners have not been nearly as cooperative. In fact, they've led the effort to create mechanisms to break up our sanctions. They call this scheme a special purpose vehicle. We call it an effort to break American sanctions against Iran's murderous revolutionary regime.
The special envoy for Iran of the US State Department also stressed that the Iranians are very active in waging conflicts by proxy abroad.
What happens in the Middle East has global consequences. For example, Iran regularly threatens to close the Strait of Hormuz. That would have enormous consequences for the global oil market. Iran also is testing missiles in regular violation of UN Security Council resolutions that have been passed over many years. They spend billions of dollars in the region, in Lebanon, Syria, Iraq, Yemen, and Bahrain.
Vice President Pence, I think maybe most important part of his speech was that he used the opportunity of this conference taking place in Warsaw, capital of a member state of the European Union, to attack European powers or EU powers for their support of a special purpose vehicle which would facilitate trade and financial transactions with Iran.
There is no unity in the European Union, however, on the issue, which was clearly shown by Federica Mogherini, the EU High Representative of Foreign Affairs, being absent from today's meeting. Some voices are more positive, though, including Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu, who claims that serious progress has been made in coming up with a joint action plan against Iran. For Telewizja Republika, this is Adam Starzyński.
How does Poland benefit from organising the Middle East Peace and Security Conference in Warsaw? Critics of the government claim that by hosting a conference principally directed against Iran, Poland is above all acting in favour of Israel and the United States. For the governing Law and Justice Party politicians and many commentators, the conference should not be seen as an issue of bolstering international prestige, but rather as a strategic manoeuvre and a confirmation of the independence of Polish foreign policy.
The Polish delegation hoped the conference would not have an anti-Iranian character. However, harsh declarations of the Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu have shown the true aim of the Warsaw Summit. This is an open meeting with representatives of leading Arab countries that are sitting down together with Israel in order to advance the common interest of war with Iran. Shortly after being published, the tweet was deleted and replaced with a different one. Netanyahu's words were explained as a slip of the tongue. Iranian head of diplomacy Javed Zafir reacted to them on Twitter shortly after. We've always known Netanyahu's illusions. Now the world and those attending Warsaw Circus know too. US Secretary of State Mike Pompeo spoke about Iran in a similar tone to Prime Minister Netanyahu.
Achieve peace and stability in the Middle East without confronting Iran. It's just not possible. There are malign influence in Lebanon, in Yemen, in Syria, in Iraq. The three H's, the Houthis, Hamas, and Hezbollah. These are real threats. There are others as well, but you can't get peace in the Middle East.
Politologist Jerzy Targalski argues that in the grand scheme of things, organizing the Warsaw Summit could prove to be politically beneficial for Poland. The Middle Eastern Summit is a good opportunity for Poland, provided that the Americans start treating us seriously. This includes a permanent US military base in Poland near the eastern border of our country and future American investment in Poland.
During the Warsaw Ghetto Uprising in 1943, the Jewish insurgents fought against the Nazi and Polish regimes. These are the careless words of well-known American journalist Andrzej Mitchell, said while in Warsaw, a display of ignorance which has caused offence in Poland. Unlike other occupied countries, there was no Polish regime cooperating with the Nazi occupiers during the Second World War. US Secretary of State Mike Pompeo's appeal to the Polish authorities to speed up the compensation to Holocaust victims for property lost during the war were also seen as insensitive.
On the occasion of the Middle East Summit, which is taking place in Warsaw, Poland, some statements made by high-ranking politicians and journalists have raised eyebrows. One is a statement by an American journalist, Andrzej Mitchell, who said during the Warsaw Ghetto Uprising in 1943, the Jewish insurgents fought against the Nazi and Polish regimes. These scandalous words, which are historically untrue, received an immediate reaction from the Polish embassy in the United States. This reaction was too soft, according to the Polish opposition. MPs from the Cookies 15 movement said that if the journalist does not apologize and correct her information, she should be asked to leave Poland immediately. They say that Mitchell's statement is highly offensive and an insult to the Polish nation. There was also a statement by the Secretary of State, Mike Pompeo, who suggested or invited Poland to create a law that would allow the return of property to Holocaust victims. He also talked about a Jewish Stalinist-era communist, Frank Bleichmann, as a war hero who was mildly speaking a controversial figure during the war. The opposition is criticizing the government for its silence on most of the negative and untruthful information about Poland. They are calling for stronger reactions for Polish politicians in government to be more assertive. Tomasz Rzymkowski of the Cookies 15 movement made a strong statement saying that Polish present foreign politics is no longer kneeling before world powers, but is allowing Poland to be wallowed in the mud.
Ale ja bym nie czynił z tej wypowiedzi.
I wouldn't make this statement a political matter for Poland and the United States. Politicians are for politics, not assessing what journalists say. I think it's just a single incident, but thank you for bringing it to our attention.
W sposób izolowany. Cieszę się, dziękuję Państwu, że na to zwracacie uwagę. Ci, którzy w Warszawie śmią.
Those who have the nerve to teach Polish people their own history in Warsaw should leave. Persona non grata.
Persona non grata.
Żenujący brak wiedzy.
It's a shameful lack of knowledge about the Second World War and the Holocaust. These words are very offensive, especially towards the Warsaw Ghetto insurgents. It shows great ignorance, not knowing about events like this. I'm surprised that such an ignorant person is a reporter for such a professional TV station on foreign news. It casts a shadow on the whole station as well.
Sekcji zagranicznej w poważnej telewizji.
Adam Bielan also reminded that the restitution of the Holocaust-era assets was solved in 1960 between Polish and US governments in the bilateral agreement, and that case, in his opinion, is closed. According to him, parts of the opposition are unnecessarily getting involved in an unimportant skirmishes, losing track of the most important things in Poland's politics.
That's the news. Thank you for watching. Stay with us for the weather, Poland Daily Business and more from Poland Daily. But from me, it's have a good night and a better tomorrow.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. I'm Paulina Otterstein and welcome to Poland Daily Weather. Tomorrow will be a nice day with the maximum of 9 degrees in the area of Zielona Góra, 8 degrees in Poznań, Wrocław, Osen, Szczecin and Bydgoszcz. 7 degrees will be seen in central Poland, 6 degrees in Łódź with some snow as well, and also some snow will be seen in the area of Białystok. And now let's check what will happen in the next 3 days. So as we can see, there will be a lot of sun with high temperatures. On Saturday, the maximum will be 10 degrees, 8 degrees in central Poland. On Sunday, 11 degrees in the southwest, 10 degrees in central Poland and no rain. Also on Monday, similar situation up to 11 degrees in the southwest and the minimum will be 8 degrees in the northeast. This is all for tonight. Thank you and see you soon.
Poland Daily Business Edition tonight. We will speak about Iran and Near East because it's a time when in Warsaw delegations from all over the world are gathered in order to talk about the peace in the Middle East and solving the issues over there. Our specialist tonight is Artur Górniewski of Lazarski University. Sir, welcome to the show.
Good afternoon.
So let us start from the claims. Which particular conditions and rules Iran allegedly broke that caused the end of the oil deal last year?
Iran has violated, for example, 2 paragraphs, clauses from the nuclear agreement. Clause number 14, for example, and clause T82 from Annex number 1. There is a special provision in those parts of the agreement concerning the nuclear program in Iran. For example, Iran should disclose all materials relating to its nuclear program from the past, as well as stop any development of nuclear program, even in the computers, by simulating something in the computer. It seems that Iran did not respect those particular provisions, clauses of the agreement. But what is worse, Iran engaged in some illegal activities of financing terrorism, but also organizing some crimes. And let's remember that on January 9, European Commission, European Union imposed sanctions on Iran for plotting to kill or for killing some dissidents on the territory of free countries of the European Union. We know also that Hezbollah, which is financed and supported by Iran, is, for example, trafficking cocaine or opium, and in this way financing Hezbollah. We know it from many different sources. It's not a mystery, it's not a secret. So we could, of course, count other aspects of this difficult relationship between the West and Iran. For example, Iran, after signing agreement in Vienna in 2015, tested at least 4 different missiles, like Qiyam, Emad, Khorramshahr, which is, of course, not explicitly prohibited maybe by this agreement, but it's violating the spirit of this cohabitation and peace process which we hoped all for in 2015 when this agreement was signed in Vienna. So we could enumerate other different things which to some extent show Iran in negative light, but of course European Union is hoping for negotiations and is hoping for continuity in relation to this agreement. And we cannot blame European Union or the Western countries for this because they want to make money. For example, Total, such companies like Total, PSE, Daimler, Airbus, they wanted to make billions of dollars. That's why they are criticizing the United States for this decision to terminate this agreement, and are even saying that they will be undermining this system of sanctions the United States has imposed by, for example, activating so-called blocking statute dating back to 1996, which was created to avoid American sanctions relating to Cuba, for example, and they are trying to create something like a clearinghouse or a system of financial transactions or non-financial transactions which will help to bypass, to avoid American sanctions by dealing with Iran, but not using American dollars, actually using barter, something like this, to make transactions, but not fall under American system of sanctions. Simply, we see that there is no agreement between the United States and European Union on the future of this deal signed in Vienna in 2015 between Iran and 6 countries.
Well, most of the countries decided to follow the ban and follow at least verbally comply to the American pressure.
Companies, international companies, decided to comply with American sanctions because they know that they are using US dollars at certain point. They will have to use US dollars, US currency at certain point, so they will fall under the financial regulations imposed and controlled by the United States. That's why, to some extent, this move of the European Union to block American sanctions by signing and making deals with Iran simply is futile.
40 years ago, at the moment of the Islamic Revolution, Iran was about 30 million people. Right now, this is 80 million people, most of them young and very young, and this is very prospective economy. So it would be a waste to let them sit aside from the access of goods and services provided by Western countries, and kind of obvious that the companies want to make this money.
It's a big business to do something with Iran, very big money. But let's remember that this is what Israel is saying, but also the United States now, that Iran is a big question mark. What will happen in the future if Iran creates nuclear weapon? And remembering that they have also this ballistic missile program and ballistic missiles which can simply take warhead from Iran and take it anywhere, this country, which is not really very much predictable because it's a very specific ideological government, could be a threat to all of us. That's why this intention of United States is to simply force Iran to comply with the agreement signed in 2015, United States is saying they are not complying.
Do you see it also in the light of the United States and China rivalry over the world trade?
To some extent, of course, everything is related to this competition.
Because we are again in
for supremacy.
Like in 1980s, when there was one big conflict in the world, and every single conflict was kind of associated with that.
Of course, connected to this Cold War axis of conflict between the Soviet Union and the United States. Of course, everything is now related to this competition for supremacy in the world. However, I think that the main actor in this whole difficult dilemma is to some extent Israel, and United States, which is very pro-Israel now, is trying to help the government of Benjamin Netanyahu, which is heading for election on April 9. So maybe they want to have a success as well. And we see a kind of coalition now of United States, Israel, and, for example, Poland helping to some extent, solve this problem.
Well, Sebastian, we will see how the situation will develop. The conference is ongoing in Warsaw, and it's definitely a very interesting period to be in Warsaw at the moment. Sir, thank you very much.
Thank you very much.
Artur Górniewski of Lazarski University was our guest, and that was it for tonight's Poland Daily Business.
Hello, welcome again to Poland Daily Weather. Tomorrow we will see quite high temperatures, up to 9 degrees in the area of Zielona Góra, also 8 degrees in Lower Silesia and Poznań, also in Szczecin and Bydgoszcz, 7 degrees in central Poland, also in the northern parts of the country we will see 7 degrees, Krakow and Katowice 7 with some rain. The minimum will be 5 degrees in the eastern parts, Białystok as well as Lublin and Rzeszów. And now let's check the forecast for Europe for tomorrow. So also quite a warm day, especially in some parts of Europe. 10 degrees will be in Brno, 11 in Paris, 13 in London and 14 in Dublin. The minimum will be 1 degree in Kiev and 2 degrees in Moscow. This is all for tonight. Thank you and good night. Hello and welcome again to Poland Daily Culture. Today we'll take you on a very adventurous trip through the Vodka Museum in Warsaw, so stay with us.
Polish vodka is not only our national heritage, but it is also an essential attribute of Polishness, recognized all across the world. It also is a crucial element of Polish culture, which has been served on Polish tables during celebrations for centuries. The goal of the Polish Vodka Museum was to create a space where we could present vodka's unique history. We're going to use appealing and modern means to familiarize the visitors with the process of vodka production, raw materials used for its production, as well as its different flavors. Once the visitors enter the museum, they will find interactive exhibitions, presentations, and screenings which tell the history of vodka production throughout the ages, as well as information and fun facts about the impact of vodka on shaping Polish culture and about its international career. The museum is sponsored by the Polish Vodka Association.
Hello and welcome to Poland Daily Culture. I will start with a question about the history of the museum. When was it built and why is it here in Praga, in Warsaw?
Well, in Praga, because this is the heart of Polish tradition, the history of Polish vodka. The first factory was built here in the end of 19th century. So we are in a historical building of rectification, finished in 1897. So this is the place Polish Vodka Museum should be. And this is the first Polish Vodka Museum, not only in Praga district, not only in Warsaw, not only in Poland, not only in Europe, but the first Polish Vodka Museum on the planet Earth.
Wow. That is pretty impressive. You are the president of the Polish Vodka Foundation, is that right?
I'm proud president of Polish Vodka Foundation.
And if you could tell us what is the purpose of this foundation?
The purpose of the foundation is to promote and to defend the glory of Polish vodka on the domestic Polish market and worldwide. This is the aim the main aim of the Polish Vodka Foundation is to be the ambassador of Polish vodka, the traditional product, worldwide known, the only Polish product which is global. Global meaning everywhere in the world and associated with Poland, recognized as a high quality product and which has a cradle, and the cradle of Polish vodka is Poland.
And how do you think we can promote it more abroad?
Everyone, every single Pole has to be ambassador of Polish vodka because it's a part of our DNA, linked with our tradition, history and heritage. I cannot imagine my country, our culture, our cuisine, our history without vodka, without Polish vodka, because vodka, the real vodka, starts with W, vodka. There is no V.
The Polish Vodka Museum is housed in a historic distillation and rectification plant within the premises of the Connoisseur Praga Center. The location was not chosen at random. This is where the Warsaw Vodka Factory Connoisseur used to operate, a building complex in neo-Gothic style, taking up 50,000 square meters between Ząbkowska, Nieporęcka, Białostocka, and Markowska streets. This is where the flagship brands of Polish vodkas, Luksusowa and Wyborowa, used to be made. Clearly, the premises belonging to Connoisseur Vodka Factory are being successfully restored and will soon become an important place on the cultural and business map of Warsaw. It will soon become the showcase of contemporary Warsaw, where the authentic 600-year-old history of Polish vodka meets modernity and novelty.
How, in your opinion, should we promote the culture of vodka abroad?
Well, first of all Poles living here in Poland and representatives of so-called Polish Polonia in the world should be ambassadors of Polish vodka, because this is a part of our history, tradition, heritage, and culture and art. It's a part of our DNA. It exists in our hearts. So, like French, they are promoting cognac and champagne. Scots or Brits are promoting Scotch whiskey. Japanese are promoting sake. We should promote tears of Polish soil, Polish vodka worldwide.
I like that saying. And how, because you mentioned something about potato and rye vodka, so for those people who don't know, how do they differ, those two kinds of vodka?
Well, first of all, it's written on the label. It's potato or
but
grain.
The taste?
The taste is different. The taste is different. Potato vodka is more silky, smoother. Rye vodka has a character. It smells like a bread, dark bread, and it tastes like a bread. So we can say that we have the ultimate product, which is the liquid bread or liquid potato.
And how do you think, as the president of the Vodka Foundation, how do you feel that people abroad feel about Polish vodka? What do you think their perception on it is?
The perception is very interesting because Polish vodka is, according to my knowledge, and I can bet €100 and I will win, Polish vodka is the only one Polish global product. Why global? Because it exists everywhere. Why global? Because it is recognized as a Polish product. and because of the quality, because of tradition. Polish vodka was exported during centuries all over Europe, all over the world. When people think about Poland, they think about Polish vodka. When they say vodka, immediately they think about Poland. I want to cut the discussion today saying that Poland is a homeland of vodka, is a cradle of vodka. No Russia,
I was
no other
going to
countries.
say that, yes, that was my question, because it seems a bit unclear, because Russians think that vodka came from Russia, that it was invented there.
Yes, they think, we know. This is a difference, because, and we have written evidences, like a diary, the Russian diary from the beginning of 16th century, which says that Russian merchants traded with Poles, with Polish merchants, exchanging goods like gold, stones, furs against iron stuff and vodka. So because they exchanged, they didn't have. And everything which came to Russia in 15th, 16th, 17th century came from the West, because distillation process was invented by Chinese and imported to Europe by Arabs. That's why the word alembic, the stuff to distill alcohol, to distill spirits, has Arabic name, and alcohol, alcohol, comes also from Arabic times. And the production, the distillation process came from today Spain to the east through Poland. And because of climate, because of the character of Polish soil, the tradition of Polish grains, and later potatoes, was a perfect place to produce the tears of Polish soil, the ultimate liquid product. Spiritus, spirits, means the transition between the realistic life and with the, let's say, holy life. We are the bridge. We are spiritus.
Thank you for watching, and join us tomorrow on our new episode. Goodbye.
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to Poland Daily History. Today we are at the Warsaw Citadel, a structure built by the Russians in the 1830s and later on used as a prison for political dissidents and fighters of the January Uprising of 1863 to 1864. Some of the prisoners held here would later on become prominent figures in Polish politics, while others were executed or sent to Siberia after imprisonment. Today, we will talk to some of the experts about the specifics of the Citadel, the January Uprising, and more history about the era. Our first guest is Michał Cieślak, junior custodian at the Museum of the 10th Pavilion in the Warsaw Citadel. As we know, the January Uprising would later on send ripples across history. And later on, when Poland eventually started fighting for its freedom during World War I, how are they inspired by the event?
Between August 3rd and 5th, 1915, the Russians moved out of Warsaw after they lost the Battle of Gorlice. The Germans then came in and took over Warsaw. This was a much different invasion than the one in 1939. In 1915, the Germans tried to seem friendly, tried to win Poles over with their attitude and make the Poles be loyal to Germany. Giving Poles the permission to celebrate their first commemorations of the national government of the January Uprising being murdered was a very important gesture that made Poles very happy. That was the 52nd anniversary of that tragic event on August 5th, 1916, so exactly a year after the Germans invaded Poland. The authorities, represented by General Hans Hartwig von Besseler, gave the permission to erect a wooden cross in the place where Romuald Traugut's gallows stood. This cross made it out alive. Until today it can be seen in the museum in the 10th Pavilion. However, apart from the cross, there was a small monument erected with a commemoration table, and 5 skulls were dug up to symbolize the skulls of the deceased members of the national government. Some Warsaw citizens believed those were really the skulls of Traugott and his fellow men. That is not the case. We have diaries from Warsaw citizens of the past, written up by the editors of the Czas Krakowski Daily, who said that the body of Traugott was transported to the Citadel, and that's where we hit a dead end, because no Poles were allowed any further than that. Nevertheless, the patriotic manifestation of August 5th, 1916 gathered 30 to 35,000 citizens around the cross. An interesting fact, 52 years before that, a similar number of people said goodbye to the heroes of the uprising, so the tables have turned. That farewell was enforced by the Russian bayonets, while in 1916 Poles voluntarily gathered under the monument of Romuald Traugott. What is most important, you could play the Polish anthem Mazurek Dąbrowskiego or Poland is not yet lost in public for the first time in Warsaw.
Mazurka Dąbrowskiego I uczyniono to właśnie pod krzyżem Romualda Traugutta.
What about the interwar era? How did the tradition of the January Uprising inspire the people of that time?
Polska międzywojenna czciła powstańców styczniowych.
The interwar Polish society worshipped the members of the January Uprising, the veterans as they were called. The name veteran, said between 1918 and 1939, was ascribed only to that group of people. No one ever asked, "You are a veteran? Which battle did you fight in?" It was always the January Uprising. Under a special order given by Józef Piłsudski, veterans of the January Uprising were promoted to the rank of second lieutenant.
Podporucznika zostały zaprojektowane dla nich specjalne mundury, których krój mogli
They were given a special, limited military uniform that only they could wear. There was a big social program directed at them. Veterans had free access to healthcare at the highest level. They were also allowed to skip queues while in shops. That benefit did not have to be put into law, as citizens of Warsaw and other Polish cities would voluntarily let the veterans through in queues. However, the most beautiful example of memorializing the uprising and thanking the veterans that were still alive was also an order from then Marshal Piłsudski. The order stated that any Polish soldier, regardless of their rank, would have to salute a veteran of the uprising first.
Major, ale mimo że ma przed sobą tylko podporucznika, musi mu pierwszy zasalutować. To było takie piękne.
Members of the uprising were heroes to the children. They were invited to speak at schools or at patriotic festivals, always paid for by the state. The children and grandchildren of the veterans had priority in terms of choosing education as well as working in offices. They were also prioritized when it came to receiving land in the eastern borderlands. Members of the January uprising were definitely worshipped. They were the biggest heroes of that time, and the Polish society saw them as living superheroes, people thanks to whom Poland was alive. Poland, which saw its demise at the hands of Germany on September 1st, 1939.
Po prostu żyjących herosów, ludzi, dzięki którym istnieje teraz Polska, istnieje państwo, którego niestety kres krwawo położyła III Rzesza 1 września roku 1939.
The men and women who gave their lives in the January Uprising may have passed, but their ideas and spirit never died. The remarkable event and the courage demonstrated by those who endured it would later on serve as inspirations for Poles throughout hard times. Here with us to explore the lasting impact of the memory of the uprising is Dr. Krzysztof Jabłonka. The January Uprising left a significant impact on the Polish population and their psyche and their hearts. And I was wondering if later on down the line, for example, during World War I, did that event of the January Uprising left a reminiscent in their hearts, and did that inspire them in any way?
Trzeba przyznać, że ogromna trauma, jaką był upadek powstania I represje.
Certainly, the trauma that came after the fall of the uprising and repressions which impacted most educated families and many peasant ones brought with it a great wealth of spiritual and material values in the long term. First of all, that was the main topic of the novels that were being written at the time. It also inspired painters, as we can see here, this wonderful painting from 1895, so almost 30 years after the fall of the uprising.
Który pokazuje gehennę Polaków zesłanych na Syberię I
Yet it depicts the great struggle of the Poles sent to Siberia, crossing the border between Europe and Asia. As World War I was approaching, a very peculiar incident happened. The commemorations of the 50th anniversary of the uprising began. In 1913 and 1914, all mistakes of the uprising were thought through. The fact that we had too many generals, that we lacked unity, the nation lacked agreement, and internal fights spewed out. One basic idea was born at that time among the successive generation of patriots. We have to show an example of unity. We must unify in order to create a military power that could restore the nation's freedom.
Kolejnego pokolenia patriotów. Musimy dać przykład jedności. Musimy się na tyle zjednoczyć, żeby wytworzyć siłę zbrojną,
Poles knew what they were coming up against. The events of World War I were the culmination of the January uprising in the areas where the uprising took place half a century ago. The first units, led by Józef Piłsudski and known as the 1st Cadre Company, moved to the area of the Świętokrzyskie Mountains where the uprising had died out. The entire legacy of the previous uprising was reinvigorated. Young people would sign in to join the force. They took up nicknames after their grandfathers. This was all to finish the uprising on the Polish ground.
Zgłaszali się młodzi ludzie, przyjmowali pseudonimy swoich poprzedników I przekazywali myśl dokończenia powstania na ziemiach polskich.
Meanwhile, it was made known that the secret underground government is still operating in Warsaw, hidden somewhere the Tsar would not find it. Józef Piłsudski gathered his army in the name of this secret government, and they became known as legions. Once Germany capitulated and Poland could make its jump for independence, the members of the original January uprising, who were still alive, and there were over 12,000 of them, received uniforms and the highest military honors that were awarded. Even a general had to salute them first. They became living legends. Meeting them in person impressed and created a new generation of patriots, those who would fight in World War II. Some lived through that war as well, and I even saw a lady, a very old lady, almost 90 years old, who was 2 years old when the uprising broke out, and she took part in the insurgents' marches, being carried by her mother.
Miała 2 lata I razem z matką w Beciku brała udział w marszach powstańczych. Także tradycja z pokolenia
The tradition spreads from generation to generation. Almost all of the people who gave Poland independence in 1918 were born right after the January uprising. The only notable exemption is the famous pianist Ignacy Jan Paderewski, who was born in Ukraine in 1861. The tragedy of the national government made it a sacred site in Warsaw, and each year it is mentioned twice. On the day, actually on the night of the uprising breakout, between the 22nd and 23rd January, and on the day of the slaughter of the national government on the 5th of August, 1864.
I w dzień kaźni rządu narodowego 5 sierpnia 1864 roku.
The January Uprising was one of the most pivotal moments in the era when Poland was partitioned. The Poles would later on spend decades debating whether or not they had taken the correct path of resistance. During the interwar era, the veterans were treated as heroes, and they would later on serve as an inspiration for the soldiers fighting in the 1944 Warsaw Uprising. That's it for today. I'll see you next time on Poland Daily History.
Hi everybody, and welcome to Poland Daily Travel, where in the next series of episodes we'll be traveling along the Royal Route. That's right, the tract Królewski in beautiful Warsaw. We'll be starting in the historic Old Town at the Cathedral of St. John. Then I'll be walking and talking with my friend Artur Górniewski as we proceed south along Krakowskie Przedmieście to the center of the city. You'll get to know the landmarks and historical places of interest that are most essential along the royal route. So stay with us. You won't find anything this comprehensive anywhere else. Poland Daily Travel walks and talks along the royal route. That was a lot of fun. After you. I got the door. So what are we going to do now? This is a beautiful street.
Isn't it? That's the first important street in Warsaw.
Okay.
From the main market square to the royal castle. Most important churches on the way. Świętojańska Street, which means St. John's Street. We are walking at the moment. Once upon a time, most important Warsawian street. At the moment, the place that everyone walks through. So to get to the most important and interesting sightseeing points in Warsaw. Everything in here reconstructed. That's amazing. It's world's biggest precise reconstruction ever.
Yeah.
It's the only one UNESCO heritage site element.
It's like a real Disneyland.
It is.
It's a better Disneyland, yeah? That's what people don't understand, right?
Yes, exactly.
And it's a UNESCO, you were going to say, a UNESCO...
Correct. And that's
protected site. Yeah.
UNESCO protected site, and it's reconstructed. So normally to be a part of UNESCO, you must be original and there must be something special about you. So when it comes to this area, full reconstruction, the only of such elements of UNESCO heritage site list. This is what makes it unique and also special for us. Because it was extremely difficult to convince communist government to reconstruct our pearl in its original way. But once again, I will remind you, Jan Zachwatowicz was the guy who made it happen.
He was an important guy.
He was saying to the communists, hey, let's reconstruct it in the way as it was, and then we'll provide a propaganda on TV that it's thanks to you. Okay.
Sounds good. Where are we going now?
Let's walk down the royal route.
To Krakowskie Przedmieście.
When it comes to Polish pronunciation, you got A.
I don't believe that, but thanks. That's a very nice thing to say. Thank you. Okay, we're back with Poland Daily Travel. We stopped off and got a hot beverage just to keep us focused and ready to go. Arthur's finished his, but I'm a slow drinker, and this coffee will last me a while. At any rate, behind us now is the Zygmunt column, the column Sigismunda.
Correct.
Is that right? That was close?
Close enough.
I can't believe it.
The column of King Sigismund Vasa III, the third elected king in Polish history, the one who moved from Krakow to Warsaw, and after he died, his son, also elected to be the king of Poland, Władysław IV, financed this thing over there, the column of King Sigismund, and he's the one who stands over there. Famous sculpture in Europe, famous sculpture for the Warsawians. Destroyed the column was during World War II, but King Sigismund, according to our little legend, fell down smoothly on the pavement like if he had a parachute over there. So the sculpture on the top is original indeed. 17th century original thing, designed by Constantino Tencalla, modernized by Augustin Locci.
Augustin Locci?
Yeah, exactly.
Who was he? Tell me something about that guy.
So many Italian guys involved in...
there were a lot of Italians involved in Warsaw.
A lot of Italians, because the best school for the architects was next to Lugano Lake in Switzerland, but that was the Italian part of Switzerland. So these guys were speaking Italian over there, and only the best were hired by Polish kings. Poland represented over there an amazing quality. Only the best guys could be hired by Polish kings. For instance, Andrzej Lebrun. He was recommended by Madame Goffrin, famous...
Madame Goffrin?
Yeah, she was a...
I like her name.
Well, actually, many people liked her style indeed because she was running a salon in Paris, and she recommended Andrzej Lebrun to be hired by Polish King Poniatowski. And then Andrzej Lebrun came to Poland, he started to work for Polish King, and he changed his name from French Andrzej into Polish Andrzej.
Why did he do that? Just
because
to get along with the locals?
He stayed in here, he is buried in here, and he knew that was given an amazing job by a Polish king, and
so
that's why...
He felt it was worth it to do that. He felt part of the family.
Well said.
So to speak.
Yes, exactly.
So William, if I'm part of the family, William would be Wilhelm?
Will? Well,
would be
maybe Wacław would be a good version for it.
That's a name. That's a name to conjure with.
Well, think about it.
Think about it. It's a famous, I know the Wacław is an important name in Poland. So you see behind us over here is the old town. It's and the old town square with the castle, and so we're leaving the old town now, and we're going to walk. We're going to walk on down Krakowskie Przedmieście.
Now it's A+.
I practiced while we were buying coffee. Now, we're coming up as we start the walk. There's Ulica Miodowa, which means Honey Street, right?
Exactly, Honey Street, and this is where the royal route starts. So our kings who were working in the royal castle that's behind us were living down this street. Now imagine.
Okay.
If a king was elected.
Put on my imagining hat.
If a king was elected and he was staying in the royal castle and all his family was staying in the royal castle, then we are having people from different families staying in one place. So maybe it's like you imagine at the moment Trump's, Obama's and Clinton's staying in one building. So that's why every single king was having his own property down this street. And as far as kings were owning their properties down this street, the name of this area is called the Royal Route. And therefore the royals were staying in here. And most important churches and most important sculptures of fathers of our identity and fathers of Polish culture are right in here.
So this is the origin of the street that we're going to be investigating, which, as we said before, runs from this spot all the way to the palace in Wilanów.
Exactly, right? Which is the summer residence of King Sobieski.
What about King Wacław? Where did he live? Was that a king?
No, there is no such king in our history so far, but if you will change your name into Wacław, then we will consider such option.
Good Lord! That's it. I'll have to consider that. I have to be very, consider that very seriously. That makes me laugh. Here we have also a very important church, the Santa Anna Church, right?
Saint Anna's Church.
Yeah.
This church, it has 500 years history. It has amazing interiors. I think that one day we might visit this place. Final reconstruction of this church, 1992. By the way, this is where my grandparents got married exactly 51 years ago. This Sunday is their anniversary. Would you like to come?
To the anniversary?
Yeah, of course.
Are you really doing it here?
No, and it's really 10 o'clock mass this Sunday happening at the moment.
And they're being, are they being mentioned in the mass or something?
Yes, exactly.
Yeah, well, thank you very much. I will come along.
Go
Are you
ahead.
serious? Yeah.
I am.
I will come along. Yeah, that's an offer I can't refuse. You're worse than The Godfather. Or better than The Godfather.
So I will consider it as a compliment then.
Yeah, everybody wants to be Marlon Brando, right?